cloth and set him in a manger. I forgot one thing. I love coming in here each Sunday. The ladies put this nativity scene in here. And I love this cow more than anything of it. I know that sounds funny, but it's true. And it's because the ear is chipped off of this cow. I know. It's sad. But I like it because it's got character. I was talking to a man the other day, and he said his wife had given a retired nativity scene to their grandchild. And she was really excited about this nativity scene. She had it full of what she called Jesus people. There was a Jesus people camel, a Jesus people shepherd, a Jesus people cow, and Jesus people idols. And later that afternoon, she came back out, her head was lowered, and there were some tears coming down her face. And the grandmother said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "I broke one of my Jesus people." I thought it was funny anyway. And because it's funny, but it's quite profound in that way, right? I mean, this is the place for the broken people, is it not? This is the place that Jesus comes to meet broken people. Broken Jesus people. And that's the beauty of this story. And it sounds so simple at first, you might miss it. It's Mary had her firstborn son, and she wrapped him in bands of cloth and laid him in a manger because there was no room in the inn. You've got to bring your attention and your imagination to this because you will miss it. Mary gave birth to her firstborn son and wrapped him in bands of cloth and laid him in a manger because there was no place for them in the inn. How ordinary it sounds, doesn't it? Common. I mean, how very small. The first thought is, how are we broken people supposed to get some kind of mending for something that seems so ordinary? So, what's the scientific word? Something that seems so puny. It does, doesn't it? And then we may even think, wait, I mean, aren't we talking about God here? God who is full of majesty, full of just mystery and mercy and love and just more power than we can even imagine, comes in a manger, which is more like a feed trough, a feed bucket. This can't be right. This doesn't make sense. This is the way God shows up in the world. It's preposterous. It just seems too small. It seems like it could just too easily get lost. And this world's got too many cracks in it, it's too vast. I mean, something so small, it would just fall between the cracks, wouldn't it? It would be buried by all the other things we've got going on. That's exactly what happens, doesn't it? It gets buried. It gets swallowed up by all the other things that we've got going on. I'd open up your Gaston Gazette tomorrow, and I bet if you had two headlines, if you had child born in stable, which might grab your attention. I think that might grab my attention. But if it then 20% off for a flat screen TV at Best Buy, oof. Oh, the deals. The deals are hard to pass up this season. Child in the stable? Oof. Oh, the deals. That gets buried, doesn't it? It gets lost this season. And it's the greatest irony. I mean, this is the season where we're supposed to have our faith renewed. We're supposed to have our passion and devotion cultivated. Oh, but the deals. The deals are hard to pass up. And what's funniest of all, it's kind of sad for me, is that this is actually the season that people want to avoid pastors because we're grumpy. And we walk around and ask Dorsey. And we walk around, we go out down Cox Road, and we see all the cars at Walmart or Target, and we go, my parking lot isn't that full. We wonder, I mean, people want to avoid us this season. It's the irony of it. But the truth of the matter is that we're not better than anyone else. Let me give you an example. Coming in January, I'm going to be going back to Israel again. I'm looking forward to this. And Bethlehem is on the itinerary this year. So I'm going to the city of David, or Bethlehem, really what it's, I love what Dana did this morning, the names. God added Joseph's name. Man, I'm never going to hear that the same again. But Bethlehem means house of bread. It's wonderful, house of bread. That this is the story, we're getting some nourishment from it nourishment for our souls. And I'm excited to go there, but part of me is saddened in the same time because I know what I'm going to meet before I even get there. I hear that going there, you have to go down to get to the spot. You get to the place where Jesus was born. You've got to go down a long flight of stairs, and then you got to go down this tunnel that comes to a grotto or a cave. And this is where it's suspected that Jesus gave birth, or that Mary gave birth to Jesus. And you may be wondering why a cave. Well, this is 2,000 years ago or more, and civilizations get built on top of civilizations, and so you've got new buildings on top of the place where Jesus was born. Quite literally, it's buried under something else. And I know what I'm going to meet when I'm there. It's going to be this church that's built on top of it, but then there's going to be people all around selling stuff. And how quickly the light of the world in our own lives, and even in this place, it gets buried. It's the season for it to be born out into the world, but it gets buried. The holiest places and times, ironically, become the hardest times in which to find the meaning of the story. Something so small. And it begs the question, why? Why would God come in such an insignificant way, it seems, in something so small? Wouldn't God rather come in an earthquake or a skyscraper? And ladies, wouldn't you rather God come Channing Tatum? You wouldn't miss that one, right? Channing Tatum would not be buried, would he? Come on now. Or guys, maybe comes as Peyton Manning. We're not going to miss that, are we? We're not going to miss that message, God coming as Peyton Manning. We've got some messages coming up here in a little bit, don't we? Or maybe, God, Justin Bieber. Justin Bieber would sing his way out of being buried. We wouldn't miss that. No, there's something different. God doesn't come as something overpowering. It comes as something small, something we might miss. And others are going to be involved in trying to seek power and something to grasp onto. But no, God comes as unguarded goodness and something tiny, something that can be missed. And this is the meaning of the Christian story. This is it. God doesn't come in stadiums or superstars. It comes in something far more remarkable. God comes in the middle of a war-torn country. And that's what it is in this time. As it is now, it was then. A war-torn country on a hillside of an insignificant town, in a barn, in a manger, a feed trough. Something small, out of the way, something that can be missed. And then that's not even it. And even more, God says, God who is infinite majesty, love, things that we can barely even get our fingers on the hem of this cloak. God says, I'm going to try something new. I'm going to come as a baby. I'm going to come to this war-torn place as something vulnerable, something that could slip between the cracks. I'm going to come to the world as what every human has ever been. Baby. Child. Something that needs attention. You can think about that, right? A baby, it needs all, many of you have been parents, it calls all your energies, doesn't it? A baby, a child, takes all your attention, your energy, your love. That would says something to us right now. Shouldn't our faith be doing something like this? It should be our energy. It shouldn't be the last thing in the basket this season or mixed in with all. It should be the first thing that tells us what else we should be putting in the basket of our lives. It needs that kind of attention, doesn't it? It's meant to have care, looked after. Otherwise, it'll slip between the cracks. It'll get lost. It'll get buried, and it does. There's a Christmas hymn, What Child Is This? Joe Putnam played it for us a couple Wednesday night lives ago. And there's a line that says, the scene there in the manger is as if the silent word is pleading. That's it, isn't it? It's not arguing with us for the way we choose to live our lives, but it's pleading to us. Come close. You see who you're becoming. Come close. Pleading that we might become more than we thought we could be. Pay attention. This is the way God comes into the world, something small. And here's the thing that I think gets missed the most in this Christmas season. It doesn't just stop as God coming to something small. And this is really the point of the story. God comes as something small that we might be big. God comes as something weak so that we might grow strong. I think we miss this. God comes as something so tiny that we might grow into this faith. Let me give you a story that might help. This is from one of my favorite theologians. There once was a king who was the most powerful king in the land. People would cower at his presence. Even though he was just and loving, because of his immense power, people would grovel at his feet. And one day this king, he's looking out the window of his palace, and his eye catches a maiden. And she's a fair maiden in his eyes, but we wouldn't recognize this. She's wearing tattered garments, and her skin's hard from years of work, but in his eyes, she is beautiful. And the most unimaginable thing happens. The very powerful and lofty king falls in love with a lowly, humble, tattered maiden. And as soon as this happens, a problem begins to develop in his mind. And he's pacing the halls of his palace, and there's the problem so evident. How in the world can he bridge this great divide and show that his love is genuine? I mean, how can he bridge this great divide between what is humble and what is lofty? And so he calls all the wisest men in the land, and he brings them to the palace. And they sit around a large table and they discuss the matter. And it's quite evident to them how to solve this matter. It's so easy. They say, "Sire, all your majesty must do is go to her humble abode, and in your great power and glory, she will surely fall at your feet. She will do whatever you ask." And they nod their heads and say, "Yes, this is the answer." And they pat themselves on the back. And the king falls into a great sadness at this. Because he doesn't want her to grovel at his feet, to do whatever he asks. No. For his love, he wants hers in return. He doesn't want his glorification. He wants her glorification. And so he paces up and down the halls again. He's wearing down the marble in this palace. And one night it comes to him. He has it. He has his answer. And he waits until all the king's men have gone to sleep. And he slips out a window. And he goes out into the village. And it's night. And just before this maiden is about to fall asleep, she hears a rapping on her door. And she opens it. And there's the king. He's in tattered clothing. To gain her love, he became like her. And this is what we have this season. God does the same for us. God loves us so great that God becomes one of us. And in return for his love, what God simply wants is ours. Not groveling submission, but gratitude, affection, love. And God doesn't simply want his glorification. He wants ours to become more than we thought we could be. Become small that we might be bigger than we ever thought we could be. Something tiny. Something you have to pay attention to. Something you really have to give your attention to. Otherwise it will fall between the cracks. I mean, so often I think we want God to be strong so that we can remain weak. So often we want God to be big so that we can be lost in the crowd. We want God to be like a stadium so that we can be tiny and stay anonymous. One thing I love about a small church is that I've met all y'all. I know you. And you know each other. You know each other by name. You don't get lost here. There's accountability. It's something special. God comes in these small things that need attention. Comes small that we might be bigger than we thought we could be. And God comes in a manger, on a hillside, in a war-torn country, in a stable, and draws us close with that pleading word. So that you have to come close, and then you don't stop there. Imagine, if you were to pick up that child and have all that unguarded goodness in your lap. It would do something to you. It should do something to you. It should turn your heart inside out, that you want to reflect that same thing in your life. That you once were small, you maybe once were lost, but now you're found. That you were small, but you become big in this one. This is the Christmas story. Christ became one of us that we might become more like Him. That we might finally turn, and instead of asking what we want for Christmas, we might actually think, maybe, what would Jesus want for Christmas? I mean, what would love, justice, and mercy look like on this earth? And starting with my life, what would that look like? And it's a time that we don't simply become broken Jesus people. We become Jesus people. This is what the Christmas story is about. That the king finds his fair but tattered maiden. And God comes to you this season, but you got to pay attention. You got to slow down and look for it. You've got to hear that silent word that is pleading, beckoning you